The JLR interview series.
Right, so today we've got Clare Hirst with us. Hi Clare.
Hi.
Thanks for being interviewed with Jazz London Radio. I've got some questions to ask you and hopefully it'll be a good fun interview.
It will be.
Okay, great. So the first question I've got for you is, I looked on your website at your biography and it says you were born in Cumbria.
I was, yes.
And that's quite interesting for me. So what I want to ask you is, how did you get into music and jazz in particular, coming from sort of that background?
Yeah, it's I don't really know. I mean, I was born literally in the middle of a field in Alston, which is the middle of nowhere, and I grew up in Cumbria, and my school didn't even have a school choir, but I did learn the piano. And I stopped having lessons after a while because my teacher said she couldn't teach me anymore because she didn't know anymore, which is a bit of a shame.
Not because you were unteachable.
No, because she just didn't feel confident and there wasn't anybody else. So I learned a bit of flute and clarinet. But really, I always wanted to play the saxophone. I used to borrow my brother's radio and listen late at night. And I would hear this most amazing music and coming out of the radio from foreign radio stations. And I know now it was bebop.
Right.
I didn't even know at the time what it was called, but I loved it. And I couldn't work out how you knew how to play music like that. There must be a trick because it sounded so complicated.
Yeah.
I thought there must be a trick, and once you know it, you'll be able to play it. And of course, I didn't even know the names of anybody because they'd be said, the whole thing would be said in Swedish or German, so I wouldn't even pick out the names. You know, I didn't know.
One of those stations on the long
There was no
wave or
internet
something. Then
you couldn't just look it up. So it was all a bit of a mystery to me, but I just knew that I loved it from then. And so every birthday, every Christmas, my mum and dad would say, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I'd go, "I want a saxophone." And they go, "Oh, don't be silly, there's no one to teach you." And I thought, okay. So this went on for a while until eventually they gave in and bought me a saxophone, by which time I'd left home and joined a band. I think I joined a band before I got the saxophone.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that you got it when you were about 12 years old. You started practicing.
I think I was about 16, 17 when I got it. And then this band was advertising for a saxophone player. And I'd seen it when I was at home at my parents' in the Yorkshire Post, you know, looking for a saxophone player. And I thought, I'd love to do that. And I've got a clarinet, I can play that. I bet I can play the saxophone. I'd never played one in my life before. And then I saw it in the Melody Maker. And then I saw it in my local shop in Leeds where I was living at the time. And I thought, no, this is it. I've seen it 3 times now. I've got to answer this ad. So I answered the ad and I said, "Look, I haven't got my saxophone yet, but I'm getting one next week." And they went, "Oh, that's all right then. Well, you can join." And that was my first band, yeah.
Well, how did you learn to play?
Well, if you've learned clarinet and flute, I'm self-taught,
Yeah.
If you've learned the clarinet and the flute, it's fairly easy to pick up the saxophone. It's probably easier than either of those 2 instruments. And I just love music, and that was it. I would just make up parts and join in, and we'd play all kinds of stuff. It wasn't jazz by a long shot. It was Doors numbers and Stevie Wonder tunes, and we worked. We had gigs and we worked in working men's clubs in Leeds.
Yeah,
and that's how I started playing. Yeah,
that's incredible. So, I mean, with a saxophone, like say the soprano saxophone, I've always found there's a similar sound to the clarinet.
Yeah, it's
I know some players like Kenny G have changed the sound of the soprano saxophone a lot, and it sounds nothing like. But to me, like if someone like, say, Wayne Shorts or something plays a soprano saxophone, I hear the clarinet.
Yeah, I can hear all kinds of things when he plays soprano. It sounds wonderful. I remember going to a concert of his. We used to rent a car from Leeds and travel to London and go and watch Weather Report, you know.
Oh, really?
And he did one concert where it started in the dark and he was playing, and I didn't know what instrument he was playing. I didn't know what it was, but it just sounded so beautiful. I thought it was maybe a conch, you know. It just had this ethereal sound to it, and of course it was a soprano saxophone. Yeah, but he was great. He was one of my first big heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've seen Weather Report, and you quite
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah, a few times actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that with Jacko, or was that before
Yeah.
Jacko?
No,
with Jacko.
it was with Jacko.
What was he like?
Oh, fantastic! There was a great performance. We used to come to the Hammersmith Odeon and watch them play, and then drive back to Leeds afterwards.
Wow. What a great band.
They were fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, I got into jazz they had long since stopped playing after that, so I never got to see them play. But I saw the Zaunel Syndicate at the Jazz Cafe, which was a great experience. I've seen Wayne Shorter, I've seen Peter Erskine a few times. Yeah, but yeah, okay, that's interesting. So who would you say your early influences are on the saxophone?
Well, definitely Wayne Shorter. And then I listened to a lot of people like Miles Davis. I listened to a lot, and I was very influenced by his style of playing, in that he's quite melodic but quite sparse.
Yeah.
And that always appealed to me. And a lot of saxophone players play so many notes that I couldn't work out what they were doing.
Yeah.
But one of the first things I tried to work out actually was Tower of Power.
Oh, right.
So I always had a big funky influence in my playing, but I was trying to work out the solo on There's Only So Much Oil in the Ground. You know that track?
No.
Yeah, it's really funky. And it's got high harmonics in it, and I couldn't work out how they did it at all. It never really occurred to me to get some proper lessons and find out how to do it properly.
No, but the interesting thing is, so many people I've interviewed recently over the last 12 months have all said the same thing, and I keep having to say that again, is that they all said they're self-taught. So Barbara Dennerlein,
Right,
organist,
she's amazing.
She is, and she's self-taught. Cheryl Elaine said she's self-taught.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Well, you find your own way of doing things, I think, and getting round the changes or whatever.
Yeah, and then you find your own sound as well.
Yeah.
I suppose as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And the other. Sorry, you were going to.
Well, I was going to say, and now I teach in a school. I teach a lot of children how to play the saxophone, and it's quite difficult to teach them enough of what they need to know technically. But at some point, you have to just encourage them to let themselves go and find their own way. But they actually take like it to a fish to water. Most people, they just get on with it and
that's good.
And play, you know.
That's good, because I did read Horace Silva's Autobiography, and towards the end of his book, he felt quite passionate about it, that a lot of young players today are being overtaught in colleges and stuff musically, and they're not finding their own voice as in the past, you know.
I think that may have been true for a while, but now it's all coming full circle again.
Maybe they've recognised it.
I think so, and I see people now who come out of music college that know about all kinds of different music. It's not just jazz, and they've studied loads of different music and listened a lot, and they're coming out playing some amazing things.
Actually, that's another interesting point, because growing up, I suppose all of us, we listened to lots of different music. We weren't, just because we like jazz doesn't mean we just listen to jazz. We grew up listening to lots of different things.
Of course, yeah. And for myself, I started playing in a pop band because it was a job and it paid me money, and I could play the saxophone. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And that led on to working with all kinds of different music. I mean, I lived in Brixton for a long time, and you just hear reggae music all around you, soca music, and all kinds of different
That's all
things.
changed now, isn't it?
It's a little more gentrified now.
Yes.
Yeah, only you still find it, but not as much.
Not as
you
much.
did, yeah.
Yeah, so your biography also said you played in quite a few pop bands, like the Bronxy Beat. And I've just learned that you also were the Belle Stars.
I was with the Belle Stars, yeah.
Yeah. Their music was pretty good. I really liked it. Nice and catchy.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. That was a great time to be in a band. I mean, I was very young. We were all young. And we travelled the world and we got to play gigs all over the place. And I would say about 98% of the time it was fantastic.
Yeah.
We had a really good time.
It's a reason experience.
Yeah.
And am I right, you played with David Bowie as well?
I did.
Oh,
I played on Live Aid with him.
Oh, right, okay.
You can see my back on TV's 100 Greatest Moments at number 2.
I'll look for your back in that case. Well, what would you say are some of the differences between, say, a pop recording session and a jazz recording session?
Oh, well, pop music takes forever. When I was recording with the Belle Stars, we would start with the drums. Everything started with the drums. And the Linn drum had just come in. So the drum programming went on forever. And then you'd put the bass on top of it. Then you'd have a guide vocal. And then you put everything on bit by bit and layer it up and layer it up.
So it literally is like a process.
Yeah. And every bit had to be perfect. I mean, we worked with fantastic producers, Brian Tench and I think one of the guys from Pete Waterman did some stuff with us.
Oh, Pete Waterman?
Yeah.
From the old Stock Aitken
Yes,
and Waterman.
yeah, I think before it was Stock Aitken and Waterman, he came in and did some things with us, and another guy, Peter, can't remember his second name, he did most of our stuff actually. But so it's a long, slow process of building up the music, whereas when you play jazz, it has to be improvised, I think. Pretty much. It's really difficult to do it if you're not going to do it in one take. I mean, you might overlay a solo or a vocal maybe, but in general it's so much about the cohesion between the players, particularly if you're recording in a small unit, 4 or 5 people. And you lose some of the spark if you don't do it spontaneously, definitely.
Right. And so when you did that, and it's quite a process, what about playing it live, the music? I mean, was that a challenge then?
No, I think we'd always been a live band and we just carried on playing live, so the records were tailing us, if you like.
Right, okay.
So it didn't stop us doing what we'd always done.
Okay.
I think the only one track was Sign of the Times, when that was a hit. Was it that? Oh no, maybe it was a clapping song. Do you remember the clapping song? And it's got loads of percussion and loads of synthy noises on it, so I think we had a backing track for that, but we definitely played live over the top. Yeah. That was the only one though. Yeah, otherwise we just played live.
Yeah. No, I only asked that because I've sort of heard over the years, like, bands who use so much, like, electronics in the studio that when it comes to playing live, it's like something completely different.
Yeah, they have to go back and relearn the song to play it live. Yeah, that's quite weird.
But you're all musicians, weren't you, in the Belle Stars anyway?
Yeah.
So that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And, what I was going to ask you is, you've got 3 CDs.
Yeah, I've got 3 CDs under my own name.
Under your own name.
The Clare Hirst Quartet. Which are mostly original songs.
Mostly originals.
And a few covers, yeah.
Well, I know 2. So one is called Tough and Tender. And one is called Touchy. What was the third one?
Oh, the third one was actually, it was a joint one I did with Hilary Cameron. It's called Summersong.
Oh, right.
And that came out in the middle of those 2.
Okay.
And that she sings on that, so it's slightly different to the other 2, yeah.
Okay. Is it just the 2 of you, or is there a group?
No, there's a group, yeah.
Oh, there's a group, but she sings as well.
But that essentially was recorded live, yeah. The vocals and everything are live.
Okay. What I was going to ask you is, I find your song titles and the titles of the albums are quite interesting. Tough and Tender and Touchy. So, it's quite interesting. How do you come up with titles? Actually, one track is called Beautiful-ish as well. It's got ish in brackets.
Beautiful-ish, yeah. That was
it's a good track.
Thank you. I was working with an Italian drummer, Davide Giovannini, at the time, and he referred to that track as the track, the one I'm in, the Beautiful-ish one. So that's how it got its title. Most of them, there's a reason, you know.
Yeah.
Touchy was when I had a particularly stinging review for something, so
Oh, right.
which we won't mention.
No.
But I know who you are, and I'm coming to get you.
Oh, dear. What did Glenn Holly say? I don't get angry, I get even. That was his
Yeah.
phrase. So yeah, so you got those 2 CDs out, and the thing I find interesting is looking at your biography, reading some of the reviews, it said that your music could be compared to like EST, Hesperborn Svensson Trio, and I personally I didn't really hear that much at all. What I hear is more American and even some Caribbean influences.
There's lots of influences from all over in my music, definitely. I've always been a bit of a musical magpie. I listen to everything. I love music from all over. I played in a salsa band for years. Obviously that
salsa
comes through into my music.
Yeah.
You know. I studied at SOAS, and my speciality was Arabic music.
School of African and Oriental Studies.
School
isn't it?
of
Yeah.
Oriental and African Studies,
Oriental
to be
African
pedantic, which you are, of course, if
Yeah,
you're a
thank you.
student. Yeah, so there's always been different influences in my work. And, you know, at the moment I'm working with a piano player called Mervyn Africa. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's South African, and he's a fantastic musician, and he plays his piano, uses it in a very percussive manner. And we played with Claude Depper, who's also a South African trumpet player. And we have a new CD, actually. Do you have our CD?
No, yes. I'd like
It's
to
called
hear it.
Remember the Carnival.
Remember the Carnival.
Yeah.
Is this... I remember Becky Seleko, don't
Yeah,
you
yeah.
remember? He died a few years ago.
That's right.
Is it a similar...
Very
sound?
similar. It's Township Jazz. It's called Township Jazz, so it's very groovy and danceable. But
But Becky was quite technical as well, wasn't he?
yeah, it can be incredibly technical, and it can also be very out and very free. So it encompasses everything that I love about music. It's all in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's... and if you do a gig with Mervyn, you never quite know what's going to happen. Because at some point in the middle of a song, he'll just suddenly start rapping and go off into, you know, singing. Anything could happen, you know, leap out into the audience. And then he plays these fantastic piano solos, quite incredible. He's an amazing musician, yeah, I'm loving working with him.
I'll have to check him out then.
Uh-huh.
So you got quite a few projects on the go, because you're currently playing with Hazel O'Connor.
Yeah,
well.
I do.
How did that come about, and how long have you been playing?
Well, I first met her when I joined the Belle Stars. And we met
similar scene.
Cafe Pacifico, where there was a ridiculous event where celebrities were supposed to serve people, members of the public, with cocktails, and they would pay huge amounts of money for charity, for the pleasure. Well, I thought this was hilarious, because I'd left my job as a barmaid about 2 weeks previously, and I was like, well, going back here, the world of celebrity, and I'm still serving cocktails to people. This is really awful. And Hazel said to me, should we go outside? And I went, yeah, right, let's do that. And so we got chatting, and we just got on really well. So I played with her. I ended up touring Poland and Austria and all sorts of places with her. And then I didn't see her again for a long time. She went to America. And then she rang me out of the blue, pretty much, and said, I'm going to ring you in about a year's time. I want to put together our jazzy, bluesy projects again. And I thought, oh, yeah, it's Hazel. She'll never ring me. And about a year to the day later, she rang me, said, right, it's now, we're going to start. And I said, oh, all right. So we met up with the piano player, and there's just the three of us. We play together, and we sing three-part harmonies. And in some ways, it's quite a scary gig, because you're very, very exposed.
So you say it's just 3 of you? So
There's only 3 of us, yeah.
No bass or drums or anything?
No.
All right.
And sometimes it's just the voices and drums.
All right. So it's quite interesting, quite creative.
Yeah, it is quite creative. But we've been doing that for a while now. We have gigs. We have a London gig at Shepherd's Bush, at Bush Hall in Shepherd's Bush, sometime in April.
Bush Hall?
Yeah.
Not familiar with that venue.
I think it's meant to be really nice. I haven't been there either.
Yeah.
It's an old-fashioned music hall type venue, I think.
I wonder if it's one of those venues that's being renamed, because there's so many venues that get renamed these days.
Could be.
Because I've been to, there's the Shepherd's Bush Empire, wasn't there? And
it's definitely not there.
No, okay. And then there was another one, but I've forgotten the name, which was quite famous. Anyway, so you're playing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's quite a good gig. And her music is often had saxophone, isn't it? And it has
amazingly, when you listen to...
back to some of the stuff from the 80s. And
well, her first album and all the breaking glass stuff, she had a saxophone player in her band, and he played all the time on everything. So there's loads of saxophones, so it's always been associated with us. And of course, there's that really famous solo on Will You, which is about 2.5 minutes of saxophone.
Yeah, do you know who that saxophone
Yeah, that was Wesley McGugan.
Okay.
He doesn't play anymore, and I get to do his 2.5 minutes of fame every night. Yeah.
That's the thing about music from back then, because even like the likes of Huey Lewis and the News and stuff, they always had a saxophone break in the middle, or like Phoebe Snow will get someone like David Sanborn in, or or Michael Brecker. Or,
David Sanborn got in on everyone's record, didn't
he?
And
Michael Brecker as well.
And Michael Brecker, one or the other.
Yeah.
But that was quite funny, because at the time when I first started playing, if people wanted a sax player, that's what they wanted, that really hard, crisp alto sound. And I was playing the tenor, wanting to sound like Ben Webster,
Yeah.
So it didn't go too well. Looking back on it now, I missed a trick there. I should have got my alto playing together. But hey.
Yeah, because I suppose the key was a bit higher, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a completely different sound.
Well, that's like comes in nicely to what I was going to ask you next. Is that who were your favourite, are saxophone players? Your favourites, either growing up and today?
Well, Wayne Shorter, John Coltrane. Well, I deeply love John Coltrane. I've listened to him a lot. And I particularly like things like the Africa Brass sessions, where they have all those horns going on. Charlie Parker, obviously, Cannonball Adderley. I think there's bits of all of that in my playing, really.
Yeah. See, when I heard you playing, I'll tell you who I was thinking of, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I was hearing a bit of David Murray and Sonny Rollins.
Sonny Rollins, definitely, and David Murray too,
Yeah.
I like that sort of edginess, a bit more out there.
And also, the stuff going on behind is quite a lot of syncopation and stuff. I'm not an expert, by the way.
Definitely syncopation is in there.
Yeah, there is, okay.
Yeah.
So I've got good ears then, that's good. Okay, excellent. And to wrap up, what have you got any upcoming projects? Are you going to be... Well, you just said you put out a new CD, haven't you?
Well, I put one out with Mervyn Africa that's just come out, that's only available on gigs at the minute.
Okay.
I can probably furnish you with a copy.
Okay, that'd be nice.
If you cross my palm with Silva. And that's my most current release. And also stuff with Hazel. I had a CD out with her recently, which she sings a couple of jazz standards on there. She has got an amazing voice.
Yeah, I've been playing it on the station.
Oh, great! Thank you.
No, it's a really nice CD actually.
And and I've got plans to record with my band, which will happen soon.
Soon.
In the pipeline. Yes.
Okay, that's good. Glad to hear it. Okay, well, I think that's it from me. I quite enjoyed chatting to you for the last 20 minutes or so, and I appreciate you coming on today and being interviewed with us, Jazz on the Radio. So good luck for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much for having me. Lovely to meet you again.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
The JLR interview series.